So now I'm going to put my Fedora Program Manager hat on and continue. This is a quick overview of the Fedora community as it stands kind of today. So, we say we have approximately 300 known installations of Fedora around the world. We are actively working on trying to build out a public-facing registry on the Fedora website to help us get a better and more current understanding of what and where and how Fedora is being used around the world. So I'll share a link to the registry with the resources at the end of the presentation. But if you haven't already done so, we would be very appreciative of you going to that registry and listing your institution so that we can build out this network of users. But like in the Samvera community, the majority of our development efforts are done by our wonderful team of committers and our active technical team. So we meet weekly to discuss current work, open issues, and kind of provide ongoing community support. Over the last year or more, we've been intentionally looking to create more ways to contribute, more ways for the community to contribute back. And so, we're thinking specifically about those users that maybe are less technically inclined or are not developers, trying to make spaces and opportunities for everybody to come into the community and engage in different ways. And then this is the current state of technology. So Fedora 6.5.1 is the most current version, was released in February 2025. These are the most current versions of some of the most popular kind of Fedora adjacent tools. And then we have our official Fedora Docker image. This is the program team, if you aren't familiar. So Fedora has an organizational home at Lyrasis, and as such, we have the support of Bridget Almus, who is the Director of Operations for the Community Supported Technologies and Hosting Services Division at Lyrasis. It's a mouthful, that's why we use an acronym. But the Fedora program team itself is myself, so I am the program manager. I am with the program full-time. And then our program developer, Dan Field, who works 80% on the project right now. So we're responsible for maintaining program operations, communications, and essentially just making sure that everything's running like a well-oiled machine and being available for the community. Then we have our active committer and technical teams who are listed here. These wonderful individuals are the faces behind support requests, doing the JIRA tickets and closing issues, resolving things for you as users. So, they do a lot of the heavy lifting, and we're very, very appreciative of all their time, certainly. And then obviously we would love to expand this list. We are always looking for new contributors. You do not have to be a developer specifically to become part of the team or to get involved. We need people with a variety of skill sets, and we'd be more than happy to take whatever capacity you've got to contribute. So happy to have you. So again, much like the Samvera community, you, the community, are our users. You're the reason that we do what we do. We take our cues and establish our program priorities based on the needs and the feedback from you. But it is the Fedora governance group who is responsible kind of for collaboratively working with the program team and the community to ensure that priorities are being met and that we are acting in the best interest of our users at large, so the entire global community. Governance is made up of elected individuals from membership organizations as well as community representatives. And we do this to give equitable opportunities for everyone to be part of the decision-making group, so have their voice at the table. So there are opportunities for non-members as well to engage in governance. And from the chart here, you can kind of see we're able to draw on the expertise and resources from within Lyrasis through that organizational home model. But our actions and priorities are determined by your needs and realized through the technical teams that are involved. So over the last few years, we have seen a resurgence and a kind of a reinvigoration, if you will, in users leaning into the community for various reasons. This has given us the opportunity to really learn about how users are engaging with the software and work very closely with them as they navigate their different situations. We have people coming who need support with old versions. We have people that are migrating. We have people that are just tuning into communications channels and just want more information. So lots of different ways that people are joining the community, but there really does seem to be this resurgence of people leaning into what we're doing. So I think a lot of this comes from the fact that, Fedora 6 is still really exciting and really kind of like a goal target for people to get to. Upwards of 18 months after the software was released, there was only a handful of users who were on or even considering migrating to that version of the software. But now we have over 35 known installations. So that's just people that we know about. We obviously recognize that there are lots of people in the wild who may have versions of Fedora 6 that we're just not aware of. But this is 35 known institutions on the latest version and at least six or more in active migration. So we say active migration, these are people that are tuned into the community, sharing their migration stories as they progress through it. These are people that are currently doing the work. So, like I said, people are still getting really excited about Fedora 6 and the benefits of getting there, which is really great. And I think this is driving a lot of the engagement for us. In the last 2 years, we've welcomed 3 new members to the Fedora membership program, almost all of them coming from outside North America. And then along with this, we gained 2 new members to Fedora governance group. And this is, continuing to expand that international representation. We are actively working to better have a wider representation of our global users at the conversation table. And so this growth has been really exciting for us to see. So everything is showing us that this is active proof that our intentional investment in engagement is working. So I mentioned, Fedora 6 was released, you probably all know, some time ago, so back in 2021. And what we needed to do at that point in time was, as a community, we really needed to understand how best to prioritize our efforts post Fedora 6. So we needed to be able to still be available for folks as they are migrating, for support and for guidance, but we also need to, understand what the next steps or what the next future of Fedora was going to look like. So what we did to set our roadmap was governance and a team of community stakeholders developed and released this community roadmap. And this serves as the framework for decision making on how we prioritize efforts as a program and a community. So we developed it through hosting a series of open community listening sessions. We had some consultation work with our active contributors, and then we kind of did an overall assessment of program capacity. So what could we actually accomplish realistically? And we recognized really early on that, migration efforts take a long time. And so we need to be available for that continued, amount of time to continue to support users as they work through this process while still continuing to advance the software. So we couldn't just put everything on hold and say we're just doing migration support. There was still work that needed to be done, but we needed to make sure that we could still be available to support migrations as they were happening. But you'll see on the roadmap here that this doesn't just serve to define our technical developments. So, in an effort to really engage more users, like I was mentioning before, we wanted to create opportunities for people with different skill sets to help and people that could get involved in different ways to support us so that we weren't stretched as thin as we are. So what we did is we wanted to be able to leverage, the different individuals within our community. So there are some elements on our roadmap that are non-technical by nature, and this has really helped us be able to update some things, bring in some new faces, and get some different sets of hands working within the community. So this kind of the roadmap for us serves as a comprehensive outline of whole program activities, and it kind of defines and helps us understand how we're going to accomplish these tasks and priorities. It's been a really critical tool for us as we see, you know, um, community members and contributors, people's time is stretched thinner and thinner, and contributor capacities are shifting. So this way, when we ask somebody for an hour or 2 hours, we know that we aren't wasting their time on things. We are only working on exactly what the community has asked of us and what the community has identified as priorities. So this really focuses our efforts and focuses our time on only doing things that are important. So this kind of all leads me to this. And so being able to define and sticking to that roadmap and the tasks that are on it has helped us be able to accomplish some really incredible highlights. So over the last year, we launched a new website. So fedorarepository.org got a full facelift. This was work that was sponsored by Lyrasis. It was very time consuming though, and we spun up a website wiki working group that helped draft content, review content that was already there. So this was a non-technical way to engage, but really helped expand or reshape what Fedora looked like on the website. So in doing so, we brought in Lyrasis sponsored the work, and we brought in an external UX UI designer to help work through design of the website to make it accessible for users, make the information easier to find. The UX UI designer also incorporated accessibility compliance, so the website is more accessible friendly. And the project was finalized and delivered almost a year ago today. So June 30th is when we were handed over the keys to our new website, and it's been much easier to work with going forward. We also engaged in many more in-person activities and virtual and in-person, sorry. So last year we held the second annual virtual Fedora Showcase, which saw over 175 registered attendees, which was up from the year prior, which I thought was really good in that year. It turns out we can do better, and that was phenomenal to see even more people at last year's event. We've had really strong representation from our community members at conferences over the last year. So less about the program team getting up and speaking and more about encouraging the users to go out and talk about what they're doing. This gives us a good opportunity to speak, have them speak on our behalf, right? Be in the community talking about what they're doing. But then we get, as a program, get to come along and meet the users face to face and get that chance to connect one-on-one, which is phenomenal. Last year, we had our first in-person user group meeting, which we held in conjunction with OR, and we plan to do the same again this year. So if you're planning to attend OR in Chicago, you've probably seen the information, but Fedora is having a user group meeting on the last day of the conference. So it is at the conference venue from 1:30 till 5 p.m. On the Wednesday, I believe, is the last day. There's no additional registration required. You can just drop in if you'd like to see what's going on, but we're having another user group meeting there. We also held two virtual workshops at the start of this year. We'd only planned to hold one, but the registration demand was so high that we had to wait list a bunch of people, and then we held a second version of the same workshop to support all the people that were interested in it. So that was really encouraging for us. All the recordings were put up on the Fedora YouTube site and made publicly available for the community because we didn't want there to be any barriers to people getting that information. So that's all updated and now available. And one of the other things that was really exciting for us, and this is one of those non-technical pieces, was we started and completed a full documentation review project in less than 6 months. So it kicked off at the virtual Fedora Showcase. The goal here was to review all of the Fedora 6 documentation. So we weren't looking backwards. We weren't looking at past documentation. We were only looking at the most current documentation. And when I say review, I mean we were reviewing for spelling, grammar, broken links, missing macros in the wiki. We knew there was outdated content, obviously, and we did need content specialists to help us with the accuracy. But in terms of reviewing the documentation, there was so much more to look at. So we met bi-weekly, we did live working sessions. People were welcome to drop in, drop out as they could, and just, click links, read for spelling, look for missing periods, things like that. And so we were able to spin up and complete that project. And I think the end result was something like there's only 5 outstanding tickets of documentation elements that need to be updated. So super happy with the results of that. And I think people enjoyed the opportunity to be able to get in there and participate. And so that was the kind of engagement and non-technical side of things. From a development and software side of things. This is the next major undertaking of the Fedora program. So FC Repo Core contains several outdated dependencies, and we need to address that. Focusing on updating these is going to result in a much more modern and certainly much more secure version of Fedora. So in late March, we began the dependency upgrade project, which you can find on our FC Repo GitHub page under projects. As the first phase of the work, which we are in right now, we are focused on reviewing and expanding code test coverage so that we can, have an appropriate groundwork laid before we dive into the actual upgrades. So we are finishing the second and final sprint on code coverage review right now. It'll end this Friday on May 9th, at which point we're going to begin building a comprehensive project plan for tracking or for tackling the dependency updates that are ahead. So we're looking at updating the following libraries as kind of main targets. So we are updating from Java 11 to JDK 21 is the target. We'll be looking at Maven, Spring, and Jersey, along with whatever else kind of comes up that we need to. But these are the kind of main libraries that we're going to be looking at first. And what we will be focused on is FC Repo and FC Repo build tools, FC Repo storage OCFL, and migration utils. So the rest of the tooling that Fedora kind of sits, adjacent to Fedora will potentially come in time, but we need to focus on these elements first. So what we'll be doing once the project is, or the project plan is set up and established, we'll be sharing that with the community, but then we'll really be looking to the community to help support this work. So, this is our ask right now is anybody with experience in any of these libraries or the upgrade pathways is really encouraged to reach out to myself or to Dan. We are still going to continue planning on working in sprints, so 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off until the project's complete. So, even if you have capacity to come and participate in one sprint effort, that small amount of time or, that one segment of time is going to go a long way toward helping us achieve our goal in the end. So, any hands are welcome and any expertise would be greatly appreciated. And then other opportunities that we have coming up. So Fedora Camp is back. Again, I imagine you've seen the communications about that. The University of Vienna is graciously hosting us in September for 3 days of hands-on learning, networking. We're going to have collaboration with fellow Fedora users from around the world. The call for proposals is already open. Registration is going to open later this week, and you can find more information at the wiki link that's there in the slide deck. And then, as you heard me talk before, some of our cross-community collaborative work is the Fedora 6, Hyrox Fedora 6 working group, sorry. We also participate in the LAC Glam working group over in the Islandora community. And then we are also active members of the OCFL Java implementers group. And all this work is important for us to stay aligned with the communities that rely on Fedora. So understanding what work is happening in other communities and vice versa, so they know what's happening in Fedora. That way, everybody is supporting users more broadly. This is where you can find us from now until the end of the year, so lots of opportunities. Hoping to see you at least one of these. We have a TBD on Fedora Connect. Hopefully, our fingers are crossed that we'll be able to be with you there in Mexico City. Here's some resources. Obviously, Fedora Slack is the best way to get a hold of us. I'm sure most of you have used that channel in the past, but that's typically the fastest and best way to get a hold for support of any kind. There are mailing lists, and then my one last plug is to join us at any of our weekly technical calls. They are open to all individuals. We save space for pop-up topics and questions at the beginning of every meeting so that you can come in and ask your questions and then hop out and not feel like you need to sit through the whole hour-long meeting. And then this is, last but not least, you're the heart and soul of the community, our users. We do everything we do for you, and we value all contributions. So one way, that we ask that you can pledge your commitment to Fedora and our future sustainability is through membership. So it is the source of income that we have to continue doing the work that we do. We're happy to discuss all opportunities of getting involved and how you can make a difference. So I, would encourage you to reach out at some point to connect on how you can make a difference in, Fedora's future. And that is all from me. So.